Hello everyone, this is Lisa de San Croix in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm here in my studio. I'm surrounded by some of my artwork. These are the original paintings for my Lenormand deck. And this is a new deck that I'm working on called Sacred Union. So today I'm going to be presenting a fun way to look at Lenormand. Through art making and writing. I'll give you a spread with some questions and we'll have fun for the next hour being creative together. Creativity is really a good way to tap into the intuition. You know, we often just try to learn the meanings and we work on the spreads, but sometimes when we get out of that left side of the brain and tap into the right side of the brain, we have a different understanding of the cards. So in a visual journal, you can use it as a place to store notes that you've taken, perhaps handouts that you've been given. You can do a page for each card, writing the meanings, putting some personal expression in. You could do collage the images, you know, just look out for a rider, a star, whatever. Or you could make photocopies of your favorite cards and glue it in. But today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing something very creative. So, you know, what I would say the most important thing is to let go of the inner critic. Don't try to make something that looks amazing. It may turn out to be amazing, but that's not the point. The point is to just really let go of the outer world, let go of the left brain that's very analytical and critical and feels like you have to have everything organized and planned. Just let it flow. So if you got the list, you just need some basic supplies, some paper. You can just use regular type paper, printing paper. Or if you have a journal, you can use that. I have a nice big, it's called a Strathmore visual journal. It's multimedia, it's nice thick paper, so you can use watercolor on it, you can do collage, you can draw, paint. It really lends itself to a lot of different mediums. Also, you can use a binder and punch holes into pages, and that's a good way to collect things. It really doesn't matter. It's just a place to put all your thoughts, your creative projects, your handouts, your notes together. So today's project is called the Giving and Receiving Hand. So the giving hand is the dominant hand. Often that's the right hand. For some people it's the left hand. And it's the active hand. It's the hand that we do things with. It's tied to our left brain, the opposite side, and that's the analytical, planning, very organized part of the brain. So when we give, we often think about it beforehand. Can I do this? Who am I giving to? What am I doing? Those kinds of thoughts. Then the left hand, or you know, it's not always like that. If your dominant hand is your left hand, it might be the opposite. But the non-dominant hand is the receiving hand. That taps more into hearing messages from the divine. It's more about being sort of in the intuitive. It's a little bit unconscious. You don't always know where things are coming from, but you just put out your hand and you receive. So the Sufis, when they dance with one hand up and one hand down. They're receiving the divine and they're giving it out into the world. So some of the other things that you can do in your journal is to paste in these handouts. You can make a page for each card. You can look through magazines and find images. It's not hard to find images for the key or the star or birds, and you can kind of play around on the page and have fun, and then, you know, write your own meanings. I mean, of course, write the traditional meaning, but then see if something else comes up. it's a good place to journal about your spreads. If you have an important Lenormand spread that you want to record, you can put it in there. I often take a photograph with my camera, my phone camera, and then I'll email myself the photograph and then print it out on the computer, and there I'll have the spread. Or you could do that with individual cards, even for this project later on. So we're so lucky to have this technology that helps us do things like this. So today's project is, I'm going to turn the camera down and then I'm going to work alongside you. So I'll give you time to kind of get your materials together, to do the different aspects of it. So there will be some kind of slow periods of this video. And if you're watching and you're in a hurry and you're watching it later, you can speed it up and then maybe come back to it. But I'm going to show you 2 pages that I made for this project, and then I'm going to do another 2 pages and explain some of the techniques that I used. Of course, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Anything goes. These are just suggestions, and the questions are important. So there is a handout that looks something like this. And it does have the questions there, but I will be slowly repeating the questions. So if you didn't have time to get the handout, you will have time to write down each question. Then we'll be pulling cards, and we'll be doing some creative work and some journaling work. So let me turn my camera down. So this is what I did. And again, your pages might look very different, but this is just kind of an idea of what you could do. So it might be backwards. This is the receiving page and this is the giving page. Here are the Lenormand cards. These come from my deck, the de Croix Lenormand. And we have the hands with the different questions. So I'll go through it slowly and show you the process. So first of all, as I said, you could just use paper. If you don't have a journal, that's fine. You could just put it down and put your hand on it and then go around with a pencil and just trace each hand. So if you remember on the previous page, I did one hand facing up and one hand facing down. I thought that made a more interesting composition. Now, if you go to hobby stores, you can often find these packs of decorative papers. They look something like this, but you might have some gift paper at home, or you might find gift wrap paper, or you might find in a magazine some other kind of paper. And it's kind of fun to do that because then you can work with the negative and the positive. Let me go back and show you. So this would be the positive. It's the cutout hand, and this is from the same piece of paper, but it's the negative space. And so, I turned them one upside down and one the right way up, just to kind of make it look interesting. So while you trace your hand, I'm going to trace my hand, and I'm going to show you how to cut it out so it's pretty neat. You want to make sure that hand fits on the paper, so don't spread it out too far. If you're just drawing on the paper, you could of course make your fingers a little bit more spread out. So what I'm seeing here is this goes very close to the top, so I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller, maybe those 2. If you have rings, you might get these bumps. That's okay, don't worry about it. So then, when you cut it out, if you're cutting out of decorative paper, just make sure not to cut off the edges. You want to really just follow the line. So, I'm going to do this, and you can be doing your own work while I'm doing this, either tracing the hands or cutting it out of paper. I like these smaller scissors for doing craft projects. They're just easier to turn around corners. But if you have big regular pair of scissors, that's fine too. I try to make these journaling workshops where you don't really have to go out and buy a lot of different supplies. You can find things around the house to use. But of course, if you really enjoy the process, then you might want to add to your collection of things to use. So the basic things I would say are scissors, of course, and a glue stick, and some markers, or colored pens, pencils. If you have some watercolors, that's good. Magazines. I mean, magazines are almost going out of circulation now with all the online stuff, but if you find a stack of National Geographics or, you know, any magazines that have a lot of pictures in, you know, collect some. And then, you know, sometimes you can just go through them and tear out the pictures that you like and put it in a box, so you don't always have to be paging through a magazine. So now I've cut out these two hands, and I'm actually going to do another page because, well, I could erase that. Yeah, I guess I'll just erase it. So if you're still cutting, just take me a minute to do this. And if you're just drawing the hands, you might want to, if you have a marker or something, you might want to make the lines a little bit more bold. Go over the pencil with a marker, and I think I'm going to do, let's see, here I had the hand coming down, so I'm going to do the hand going up, just to be a little different. So yeah, pencil, eraser, what else was I talking about? Supplies. Some double-sided tape is really good. Also, if you have some old Lenormand decks that maybe you don't love and you don't read with that much, you could use those for images. You know, they make great collages. So then I just have a glue stick like this. And let's see. I'll just do it on the back of this piece of paper. I usually put down a piece of paper just so I don't get the glue on my surface, because that makes things messy. And then, you know, just go out towards the top of the finger so you don't bend the paper in long, even strokes. And you can put, and I'm coming down, you can put a lot of glue on and then place it wherever you want. You could also have it coming there and there. That's actually kind of interesting, but I want room for the cards, so maybe not side to side. I'm going to do that, and then I'll use another piece of paper for the back. And this one's a little bit more delicate, so, you know, just kind of put your fingers and support it as you glue it. You know, don't just go crazy, because you might bend or tear those delicate little areas between the fingers. Okay, so I'm going to put that over here, and I line up the bottom of the paper with the top of the page. Well, actually for you it's the bottom of the page, like that. And then I kind of make sure that that's going parallel to that, and then I kind of pat it down. I could use a little bit more glue under there. Sometimes this glue dries quickly. Here in New Mexico it's so dry that things dry in about 30 seconds. So get it nice and flat. Okay, got that. And I always put the lid on because those glue sticks dry out quickly. So this is actually my notes that I was gluing on the back of. So now we're going to do the questions. So I'm going to read them very slowly. Actually, before we do that, let's figure out which page is the giving page and which hand page is the receiving one. So the giving, I kind of feel like the giving would be maybe this one, coming down. So I'm just going to write it now. I'll come back later on and show you something. I'm writing in pretty big letters, and you know, just do it lightly with a pencil. So if you want to move it over, you can. And then I'll write here receiving. I think I'm going to move that over. So, you know, when I do something like this, I take my time. I'm not in a rush. There's no hurry. It's supposed to be relaxing, enjoyable. Okay, so that's more evenly spaced. So we've got that. So now I'm going to talk about the questions. And if you have the handout, you can copy it. If you don't have the handout, then, you know, write down these questions. So on the receiving page, you know, well, before I start with the questions, I just want to talk about the digits on our hands and kind of what they mean. You know, as humans, we're very unique because we have an opposable thumb that we can clench things with. And this really makes us able to do so many things because we can, you know, unscrew tops, we can make tools, we can clench things. So the thumb is really a very, very human, very important digit. And it's about grasping and holding things and the ability to use tools. Then our pointer finger, you know, that can either beckon people, it can point at something, it can get attention. It's a very strong finger. Then the middle finger is, well, I kind of think it is sort of creation. You know, you think of piano players, the fingers are really very creative, and the middle finger has a very strong, wide reach. And then the ring finger, of course, that would relate to relationship because that's the finger that the marriage ring goes on. And then the pinky is kind of a weak finger, but it's also about communication. You know, we make a promise, a pinky promise with people. It has a sweetness to it. So those are the sort of rough meanings, and I tried to adapt my questions a little bit to those, to the meaning of the fingers. So in receiving, so we'll start with the thumb. So you can write alongside it, or if you did a blank drawing, you know, just a tracing of your hand, you like this, you can write inside it. See, I put it inside the each finger. You can do that. Or in this case, my receiving hand, I don't really want to write on this paper because it has some kind of decorative, sparkly, raised embossed thing, and a pen wouldn't work very well. So I'm going to just put the question around the side of the thumb. So if you're confident, you can use a pen. And if you're not, you could use a pencil and then go over it later with a pen and then erase the pencil. Just make sure that the pen is absolutely dry. You might even want to do it on the side because here I wrote over my pencil and you can see it got smudged. So I'm going to be confident today. And I'm going to choose a color that I think would complement that. I'm going to choose a dark green. I like these markers. They're Statler, very fine markers. I kind of like a fine edge. So I'm going to write the first question for the receiving page, and that is, what do you need to open to? What do you need to open to? Okay. Then the second question is, what are your blessings? And that's for the pointer finger. So what are your blessings? I can probably start about there. What are your blessings? You know, I think of the receiving as actually coming down from the divine or from spirit. So blessings for sure come from spirit. Sometimes receiving is also receiving from other people or from our environment. But because we're diviners, I feel like it has a sort of sacred meaning. And then again, this one, the middle finger, is the question is, what messages are coming in? So this would be kind of the messages from the divine, or it could be from other people. What messages are coming in? And I'm not going to have enough room to go, and I don't want it just sticking up there, so I'm going to kind of curve it around a little bit. Do you see? I went round the finger. Then for the left hand, it would be the ring finger. It's what will you receive in relationship? So that's quite a lot for that little finger. So I'll probably again have to curve around the top. I might write it a little bit smaller just so I can fit it in. What will you receive in, and then I'm going to move my book so I can come around this side. Relationship. Luckily there's a lot of space next to the pinky, so it won't clash with that. You know, so if you don't feel really confident, I've done so many art projects that I kind of have an innate sense of spacing, but if you don't, you know, do it in pencil first, and then you can come over, you can do it over with a pen. And then the pinky, it's what help can you receive? You know, I talked about the pinky being a little bit weak, but not weak in a way that is negative, but, you know, maybe humble. So the question is, what help can you, and again, I'm going to turn the book just so I can come around, receive? Question mark. Okay, so that is the receiving hand, and now we're going to go into the giving hand questions. So because this book is facing me, I want to be able to read it. So I'm going to write the questions inside the fingers, and I'll start with the pinky. So giving. So it's what promises can you make? I talked about the pinky promise. So this is giving, so you give your promise. What? And I'm going to do, like you see here, I actually wrote 2 lines. Okay, and then for the ring finger on this hand, what can you do to help others? What can you do to help others? Middle finger, what action should you take? What action should you take? And then the pointer finger, who or what do you need to pay attention to? Who or what do you need to pay attention to? question mark. And then finally, for the thumb, what are your gifts to give? So I'm going to move the book a little bit so I can... I seem to be able to write quite easily sideways, but this was a difficult one. What are your gifts to give? Okay, I'm just going to read them over one more time, just to make sure everybody got those questions, because this is an important part that we're going to be divining. So on the receiving hand, the thumb is what do you need to open to? What do you need to open to? The pointer finger on the receiving hand, what are your blessings? Middle finger, what messages are coming in? Ring finger, what will you receive in relationship? And pinky, what can you receive? So I hope you all got that. And then on the giving page, your pinky, what promises can you make? The ring finger, what can you do to help others? The middle finger, what action should you take? I wanted to use the word should. People, somehow it has a very bad rap, that word should. We shouldn't use should, right? But actually it's a very strong word. And so, you know, it's a imperative. So what action should you take? And then on the pointer, who or what do you need to pay attention to? And the thumb, what are your gifts to give? So I hope you all have that, and you either have it something like this, or you have it, if you had some decorative paper, something like that. So now we're going to get our decks. I hope you all have a Lenormand deck, and we're going to shuffle it. Before I shuffle, I really like to just put my energy into it and just ask for some divine guidance. Take a breath and ground, put your feet on the ground. Connect with your heart. Deep breath. And then the way I don't do elaborate shuffling. I just kind of move them around like this. But hold in your mind that there will be information coming through these cards that you need to receive. Whenever a little card pops out like that, it's important. So, wow, so that is the Coffin, kind of a scary card, but I'm going to take that as my first one. What do you need to open to? Coffin. So, endings. Okay, so I'm going to just place it there for now. Second card, what are your blessings? Fish. So, fish is abundance. I do feel lucky. What messages are coming in? Woman. So I feel like that has to do with this amazing collection of women, Tony Poole, Lisa Duffield, and others that put together this conference. Women, not woman. They're bringing a lot of information in. What will you receive in relationship? The dog. Well, that's very appropriate. I feel like in my primary relationship, there is a great deal of friendship, loyalty, help, service, trust. So it's perfect for that. What help can you receive? The fox. Well, that's one that I might have to think about a little bit. What help can I receive? Fox. Well, sometimes foxes work. You know, it can be tricky. It can be a bit sly. But, you know, that one I'll ponder. Okay, and then I'm going to go over to the giving hand. And I'll start with the pinky. What promises can you make? The whip. So, I don't know if I want to say this, but maybe to do more of these, to do these kinds of things over and over. Actually, I do. I have many tarot visual journaling exercises, but this is my first Lenormand one, so maybe I'll do more. That's the whip often is a repetitive card. What can you do to help others? The sun. Oh, I love that because I am a sun in tarot. I'm a 19, and I feel like it is my kind of path to shine and radiate light and put out energy for other people to grow. So I love that. What action should you take? Star. Shine. Shining, you know, be hopeful, help people's wishes come true. That's good. Who or what do you need to pay attention to? Scythe. Well, this is interesting because I actually did this as my weekly reading. I had Scythe, and I didn't really like that card so much, but because it came up again, I need to pay attention to what I need to cut away. What is it that I need to harvest, maybe? That's a more positive way of looking at this card. You know, you harvest wheat with the scythe. You also cut away grass with a scythe. So it can either be removing something or it could be harvesting. Because I'm a nice and sunny person, I'd like to think of it as harvesting. And then what are your gifts to give? Book, knowledge. Good. Okay, so now what I suggest is, you know, I have a lot of decks. So on my previous page, I stuck them down. And, you know, on these glossy cards, glue doesn't work very well, but double-sided tape works quite well. You'd put a layer there and there. I don't use a lot, maybe just that much. I'm not going to do all of them. I'll show you different things you can do. But make sure not to cover the questions, and you can glue it down. Now, if you don't have cards that you can stick down, you can just maybe trace the outside of the card with a pencil. So I'm going around the edge. And, you know, you might lay them out first just to see where you want to put them, because, you know, you might not want to cover important parts of the image up or the word up. So, you know, lay them out first and then you can trace them. Woman and dog was next. I'll do there. So I'm kind of going from the edges of the previous card. And then this one I'll just do a little bit under that. So, you know, you can work alongside me as I do this. Just trace your cards. Hopefully you have enough space on your paper. Most Lenormand decks are small. I think it's called the La Petite Lenormand, right? Okay, so now if you don't want to glue in your cards, which I imagine most people don't want to do, what you would do, you know, make sure to write what cards you got before you forget about it. So fish, dog was there, fox was there, and woman was there. And you can come back. Then, you know, I went through some magazines and I just looked for some images that would that relate to the Lenormand card. So here's a picture of birds. Here's a great bouquet. And they're all small. You can see they could be put into that size. I didn't find crossroads, but it's often called the path. So there's a good path. I like that heart. It's kind of a stamp. And the tower, I didn't find a tower, but I found the Eiffel Tower. I thought, well, that's a tower. I can use that. And here's a tree. So, you know, you could spend some time, if you don't have time right now to do it, you know, just write the names in. And then you can look through magazines or images, and you can make like a little collage. Or if you want to put the cards in that you're familiar with, as I said, you can use your phone to take a photograph of the card and then you can email it to yourself on your computer and download it. And then if you have a printer, make sure to size it, make sure the size is right. If you have Photoshop, that's easy, but a lot of computers that you can just size the image and then print it out, and then you can paste in your printed card. Okay, so once you've done that, let me check the time. Oh, we have time, so I'll let you trace your cards on both hands. I'll go over to the next page. Here's my pencil. What promises can you make? And you can overlap your paper if you want a little bit, if you've done the same technique that I used. That's not good. You don't want to overlap the page there. So I'm going to just erase what I did. Make sure it fits. A good eraser is good. I mean, sometimes, pencils have an eraser in there, and just make sure it's clean. Because if it's not clean, it'll make big smudge marks. And the last one. Ooh, that's a bit tight. I'm going to have to move that down again. Scythe. Having trouble with the scythe. Cutting it away, right? Cutting it away, cutting it away. And the last one can be a bit higher because it relates to the thumb up there. Question's quite high up. Okay, and then again, make sure to put the word in, because you might want to come back later and do the collage or glue in a print of the cards. If you have cards you can use, you don't need to do that as much, but it's good to just keep it straight because sometimes we don't remember and book. Okay, we've got that. Now, I think it's important for us to put the meanings in. So let me go back to this page. And I just wrote here under each one kind of my personal meaning, but it's really based on the real meaning, the most commonly held meanings for these cards. So for birds, I put learning how to network. And then under crossroads, I said choices, different paths. And bouquet, how, it's hard to read upside down. Let me see what that says. How fortunate I am, how gratefulness opens me to more gifts. Star, I am lucky, I am a manifester, my wishes come true. Home, security in my home, and the gifts of my dwelling. So, those are sort of based on the traditional meanings, but I just kind of put them in my own words. So I'd like you to now just spend a little time and to, you can use a pen, pencil, whatever, just a quick meaning, not a lot, within one sentence or just a few keywords. So coffins. So, also read the question, what do you need to open to? Coffin, to endings. Fish, what are your blessings? Fish, abundance. And, sometimes I write on the bottom, sometimes on the top. Okay, I'm not going to speak for the rest of them because I want you to do it and I don't want to be distracting. So you get the picture. You get the picture. That's good. So again, just read the question, what messages are coming in, and then respond with a keyword, a short sentence, a phrase. So for instance, I wrote for woman. It says, what messages are coming in? I said, the women of WDA, World Divination Association, are allies. Fox. Whoops, I made a promise. What promises can you make? More Leno workshops. Okay, written it down. Okay, so I'm going to move on. You can come back and finish this later. What I think is important to do is to make sure your titles really stand out. So I'm going to just show you a very easy technique. That I might move over, so I'm going to do the giving one just because it's a little bit spaced better. So I'm just using these same markers and I'm just going to go over the pencil. And it's very thin, these markers, so I want it to stand out more, so I'm going to do a double line like that. And then I'm just going to, I said I shouldn't do that, oh maybe I better not. I'll try it a tiny bit. I don't want to smudge it. Seems okay. Okay. So if it's dry, you can erase your pencil marks. But just be careful not to smudge. And then I'm just going to quickly color it in with the same marker. I'm just doing it roughly. You know, you can spend more time perfecting this later. And you can see I'm using green because I'm complementing that paper that I used. I like green for giving anyway. Seems like the right color. And then I'll show you this page. So there I did giving. Actually did that with green too. And then I made a shadow and dots on it. So I'm going to do the same kind of thing. When you do a shadow, just decide which side the light is coming from. So let's imagine that it's coming from this side. So then the shadow would be always on your left and underneath, left and underneath. On the left and underneath. Okay, and then I like those little dots, so just kind of makes it pop a little bit. Okay, so then once you've done that, I don't have a lot of time left, so I'm just going to kind of talk through something. You know, when we put this very basic phrase or sentence or just the keywords, it wasn't quite enough maybe, so you might want to actually revisit after this session and write a little bit more. You can see over here above birds, I wrote something about, it said, what help can you receive? And I said networking, you know, and for sure this conference I feel is networking. It's connecting me with really interesting people that are similar, that have similar beliefs, and, you know, I feel like, you know, Farrell Humphrey recommended me. That was a really that was help that I received. I was a little nervous planning this, but you know, I went for it. So, you know, I wrote a little bit about it. So, you know, you can find space around the cards where to write. There's not always a lot, but you know, you can just at least put a few more thoughts down. I wrote it in pencil, but you know, you could just use a different color pen from this key phrase, just so that that stands out more. I like the way pencil looks. I often use pencil for writing. So once you've done that, done your writing, done your titles, just a very simple, oh no, where are they? Oh, here. This is a very simple technique. Need a paper towel. I'm just going to step away for 1 second. So these things are called pan pastels. You can get them in art supply stores, but you know, you could just use regular pastel and rub a paper towel on it, and then you can just kind of color in the page a little bit. And you know, you could do this even before you write if you're writing in pencil, but sometimes it might affect your pen. So if you're going to write in pen, you might write first and do this. You don't have to do this. This is just a, you know, I have a lot of art supplies, so it's easy for me. They're called pan pastels, but regular pastels, chalk pastels would work. You know, you could even do watercolor, or you don't need to do anything. You know, the page is pretty busy in itself. So, you know, and then I'm just going to put my cards out again just to kind of give you a feeling of what it would look like. You know, and then you can do some more writing. So that's basically the project. Let me make sure I told you everything. Yes. So I'm just going to turn this up on me again. And just want to encourage you, you know, once you've done this project, you know, to continue with this. You can do many things in a visual journal. You know, write about your spreads. You know, there's been so much amazing information that comes out at this conference and others, and you know, it's hard to remember it all. And so if you learn something that you really want to remember, this is a great little place to put it. You can just, you know, work on these pages over time. You don't have to complete the whole page. You can jot down a few ideas and then come back later on and, you know, do something creative with it. Journal, you know, the two words, visual journaling. Visual is really the art process and journaling is the written process. And journaling is the personal response to things. It's not just the traditional meaning or the knowledge that we receive from others, but what it really brings up for us in our personal life. And that really is the key to understanding the cards and to integrating it into our everyday life and making it matter, is to journal about it, is to really think about how it relates to our actions, our deeds, to what's around us, and it sort of sinks in a much deeper way. So I really hope that this has been fun for you, and that you'll continue doing it. And I made that promise, maybe a little while, but I will somehow put out more of these Lenormand visual journaling. I do have on Facebook, it's called Tarot Visual Journaling. And it's a group. You're welcome to join. I accept everybody. Also on my website, lisadesaintcroix.com. It's a bit of a difficult name to spell, but I'm sure it'll be somewhere in the notes. All lowercase, lisadesaintcroix.com. There's under workshops, there's a link to a lot of tarot visual journaling exercises, and you could probably adapt that to Lenormand. Also, my deck is available on my website, the Lenormand deck. I also have a tarot deck, Tarot de Sainte-Croix. I have a goddess oracle deck called Invoking the Goddess, Oracle in Action. And this is my new deck that I'm working on, Sacred Union, that I'm hoping will come out next year. So I hope I've sparked a little excitement and a little creative inspiration, and I wish you all well. Thank you.